The Vihari lead diplomat said, before sitting down, that he hoped we hadn't gone to any trouble. He said it in the particular tone that means he hoped we had, and that he planned to reject every bit of it. His name was Delegate Sorvathane, and he had 3 neck frills that fanned open when he was amused. They were open when he walked in. I noted that in my log. I am Marin Solk. I have served as cultural attaché on Compact Station Verath for 6 years. My job, at events like this one, is to stand at the edge of the room and make sure nothing escalates past what I can manage with a sentence and a steady look. The Vihari delegation's welcome dinner was the 11th such event I had hosted. I expected it to go the way the others had gone. Some polite condescension, some careful navigation, a handshake at the end that nobody on either side fully meant. It did not go that way, but it ended fine. I will explain. Sorvathane took his seat and looked at the table. The table was set simply linen, ceramic, a low candle arrangement, water glasses, human standard. He looked at it the way a building inspector looks at a cracked foundation. His 2 aides looked at each other. The 3rd member of the delegation, a junior analyst whose name I never caught, opened a small case and set a compact drone on the table beside his plate. It was the size of a grapefruit and had a scanning aperture on one end. Vihari use them at meals when they are uncertain about food safety in unfamiliar environments. I had been briefed on this. I did not comment on it. Our chef, Adela, had been cooking in the embassy kitchen since before I arrived on station. She had grown up in the Basque country, on Earth, and had spent 30 years after that cooking on deep-range survey ships, where resupply came twice a year if you were lucky. She had not been told to make anything simple. She had also not been told to make anything complicated. I had told her only the head count and the dietary flags from the Vihari cultural brief, and she had said, fine, and gone back to her kitchen. The bread came first. It was a dark sourdough, a long-fermented loaf, the kind that takes 3 days to develop if you do it right. Adela did it right. The station's atmospheric systems meant she had to make adjustments I didn't pretend to understand, and she had been making them for years. There was a small dish of oil beside each basket. Sorvathane looked at the bread. His frills moved, not fully open now, half extended, which in Vihari body language means something between amusement and pity. He said that he appreciated the gesture. He said that his people had moved past granular starch constructions, roughly 800 years ago. He said this in the careful, translated way that meant he wanted to make sure I understood he was not being rude, he was being factual. I said that I understood. He did not touch the bread. His aides did not touch the bread. The junior analyst ran his drone over the basket. The drone made a soft sound. The analyst looked at the readout. He did not say anything. The soup came second. It was a fish broth, long simmered, built from bones and aromatics, reduced and strained and finished with a small amount of something. Adela had dried herself from a batch of mushrooms she grew in a rack near the ventilation intake. I know this because I had asked her once, and she had shown me, and I had understood about half of what she explained. The Vihari do not eat fish. They know what fish is. Sorvathane looked at the bowls and said that he was curious whether humans were aware that aquatic vertebrate reduction was considered, in most of the compact, a fairly early-stage culinary technique. He said this the way a professor says it when they don't expect the student to improve. His frills opened again. I said that I had heard that. The analyst ran the drone over the soup. It made the soft sound again. He looked at the readout again. He said something to his senior aide in Vihari, quietly. The aide looked at the readout. I had a sip of water and looked at the wall. The roasted vegetables came third, a selection, properly charred on the outside and kept soft through the center, with something Adela had reduced from the cooking liquid spooned underneath. I do not know what she had put in the reduction. I know it smelled like the inside of something old and good. Sorvathane was ready for this one. He had a prepared observation about how the human relationship to combustion-modified plant fiber reflected a sort of charming attachment to transformative processes that more advanced civilizations had, understandably, rationalized away. He delivered it with the frills at full extension. It was clearly something he had composed before arriving. I said that was an interesting way to put it. The drone swept over the vegetables, the soft sound, the readout. The junior analyst put the drone down on the table in a slightly different way than he had before, not urgently, just carefully. He looked at Sorvathani. Sorvathani was still looking at me. There was a pause that I noted in my log as approximately 12 seconds. Then the senior aide reached over and took a piece of the bread. He didn't announce it. He didn't make a face or a show of it. He simply picked up a piece, pulled it apart the way you do when you want to see the crumb structure, and ate it. He was still eating it when he reached for a second piece. Sorvathani watched him. His frills had come down to the resting position, which is neutral, unreadable. The junior analyst looked at the drone screen again, then at the soup. He picked up the spoon they had brought for him, translated utensil. We always provided them, and tasted the broth. He tasted it again. He set the spoon down correctly. I asked if the temperature was comfortable in the room. Sorvathani said it was acceptable. I said good, and poured myself more water. The thing about Vihari nutritional analysis drones, which I had read in the cultural brief, is that they are calibrated to flag anything outside expected parameters. Too much of something, too little of something, combinations that are biologically unrecognized. What the brief had not mentioned, because it was not common knowledge, was that the flags run both directions. The drone does not only flag danger, it flags optimization. When it encounters macronutrient density, bioavailable mineral ratios, and fermentation-derived compounds at levels that are statistically improbable for what it has categorized as primitive preparation technique, it marks the anomaly. I did not know this at the time. I learned it afterward from the analyst's notes, which were included in the delegation's formal debrief and were forwarded to me as a courtesy. The notes indicated that the drone had flagged all 3 courses. Sorvathani ate the soup. He did it the way a man eats something when he does not want to look like he is enjoying it, which is a posture I am familiar with from a dozen diplomatic contexts, and it looks the same in Vihari as it does in anyone else. He ate the bread after that. He ate the vegetables. He did not say anything about any of it. At the end of the main courses, there was a pause while the table was cleared, and then Adela sent out the dessert. She had not been asked to prepare one. She had made it anyway, a small thing, fruit-based, something she said she made on the survey ships when they had been out a long time, and people needed reminding that not everything was a ration pack. She sent it out with no note and no explanation. Sorvathani looked at the plate for a long moment. He ate it. His frills were fully down now, flat against his neck, which in Vihari body language I had learned means a state they roughly translate as recalibrated. It is not embarrassment exactly. It is closer to the moment when you realize the measurement you were using was the wrong one, and you have to go back and run the calculation again. The dinner ended approximately 40 minutes later. The handshake at the door was genuine. The junior analyst paused beside me on the way out and said, in careful translated standard, that he would be interested in the chef's preparation documentation if it was available. I said I would ask. He nodded once and left. I filed the incident report that evening under successful cultural exchange. No incidents. I noted the nutritional drone readings in an appendix and flagged it for the Cultural Office's database as a useful reference for future Vihari hosting situations. Adela was cleaning the kitchen when I stopped by. I told her the delegation had eaten everything. She said good, and handed me a small wrapped portion of the remaining dessert to take back to my office. I did not mention it in the report.